Good evening, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you today? Isn't it gorgeous? Yeah. If it would just do this every time, right? So we're probably going to have one more evening service in 2 weeks out here, and then we'll see where we are with the county-wide requirements, and if we can move indoors, we will, and if not, I think what we'll do is we'll move the service to Sunday mornings, probably every couple of weeks. Again, probably not every week, but every 2 weeks. That seems to be working for everybody, right? And if we do it in the morning, we can also practice and play with streaming it live while we record it so people can watch real time. And, there's a lot of moving parts. So that's just the plan for now. But what I know is for sure we're here tonight. And we'll be back here in the garden in 2 weeks. And then after that, we'll see. Because that's when the time changes. And it will be really dark at 4 o'clock. And once again, it will not work very well. So we'll just avoid all that. Plus, I know it's going to get hot again this week. And I know we talk about the weather all the time. But it is supposed to eventually stay like this in the morning before noon. So we can do this. That's the plan. So anyway, for those of you that may not know me, if you're watching online, I'm Reverend Tracy Earlywine, and delighted to welcome you to our wonderful community of spiritual seekers and knowers and playmates. We come here and we play together, and we have an opportunity to remember the greater truth of who we are. There's more to us than what we do every day. There's certainly more to us than all of the upheaval that seems to be going on in the world. And at our core, we are beautiful and loving and peaceful and joyous people. And it's good to come together and remind each other of that fact. So I am just delighted to see all of you. We have a couple thank yous. I want to specifically thank Sean for taking over the filming on our evening service. Got a little video rolling. That's always good. And of course, he's there every week when we're here anywhere on campus doing sound, but he makes a special effort to drag all his stuff out here in the yard. So let's hear it for Ed. And of course, our board members that come early every time we're here to help set up and get us ready. So if you're on the board, will you stand up, please? Our board president, Shelley. Our member, Chris, is back there. Jan is in the back. Jerry is here. And Jerry's husband, Jerry, who gets conscripted because, it's a package deal. It's really cool. And I'm grateful. So thank you, all of you. And the one who's not here right now who helps put this together is Jeff, our music director. He takes all of the pieces we send him and turns them into something beautiful on YouTube. So thank you to all of you for helping to make this possible. And thank you to everyone who continues to contribute to keep our center financially sound. We're able to take care of everything and keep things ready and get things ready and buy what we need to make whatever adjustments we need to make to keep it safe for everyone as you come. And so I want you to know that from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making this work. And thank you for your continued support. It means everything to us. This is our community, and it's nice to know that you feel that way too. So thank you. Aw, thank you. I love you guys. I just wish I could see y'all more often. We're working on that. Okay, so we have our regular service this evening. We have a practitioner tonight, and it's our own Diane Clemens, who brought her own fan club this evening, which is really nice. And Diane is going to get us started with our opening invocation and a reading. So if you will welcome Diane, you're going to go over there to the microphone, dear. There you go. All right, and take it away, Diane.
Okay. Well, as we're here tonight, let's all get centered. Just taking a nice, deep cleansing breath. Let go of the day. Let go of anything that happened before this moment. Be fully present here now. And as we sit here together in this beautiful garden, I would ask to place your feet on the ground and take in that deep cleansing breath. I feel the creative energy flowing through my feet into my entire body because we're sitting in the beautiful meditation garden. This is the beautiful garden that has been here for years and years. It's supported by the members who came before us and the members today. All of the happy occasions that's happened in this little garden. The Easter egg hunt for our little ones. Classes. Wednesday night services in the summer. This whole area is so charged with positive energy that I feel that it's almost sacred ground, and that we're very fortunate tonight to be in this beautiful place. So let that positive energy just flow through you. As we give thanks for all the hands that make this service possible tonight, for those who came early and set up the mics and the recording devices, the lights, for Bobby Noah, who keeps our building clean, for our board of trustees, who give their personal time to keep our center open, and for all the members who support our center with their donations. We give thanks for our practitioners. We give thanks for our minister, who teaches us, guides us, supports us, but most importantly, loves us unconditionally, each and every one of us. We are so grateful tonight to have the opportunity to come together as a church family in one mind, with unconditional love and friendship. We give thanks that here in this sacred place we have no condemnation, no censure. Each one of us is an individualized light of God. We are cherished and loved. We are encouraged to be ourselves and think for ourselves. And we allow this light and this love in this center to go forth into our communities, into the world, and bless each and every person in the world. And let's say together tonight, and so it is. Tonight's reading is taken actually from October edition of our Little Science of Mind book. And I thought this was such a nice one. It says, each individual life is rooted in the wellspring of eternal existence. Each contacts it through one's own individual mentality in an individual way, drawing from it an expression that satisfies the self. For instance, we are surrounded by the idea of beauty. Whoever dwells upon beauty tends to become beautiful. There will be a grace and a charm expressing itself through them that no one can fail to recognize and appreciate. If one makes oneself receptive to the idea of love, one becomes lovable. To the degree that one embodies love, one is loved. It does not pay to hate. Hate is a human idea, where love is a divine verity. Whoever is receptive to the ideas of peace and poise and calm, whoever calls upon these divine realities will find them flowing through them and become peaceful, poised, and calm. There is a mental equilibrium and balance. Someday, if we are distraught, discouraged, agitated, irritated, we can try to do this. We sit down with ourselves, for there is a self within us which is real, and no one can enter there but us. When we meet ourselves in this way, the inner self may speak out to the outer self. We may speak to it, calling it peace. If it is peace we need, we can say, perfect peace, which is within me, come forth and express through me. Musing on this idea, meditating on it, being receptive to it, not forcing, not coercing, but allowing, we will find that the physical body will relax, mental agitation will disappear, and confidence and peace follow. I love that.
Perfect. Just perfect. Thank you, Diane. You know, you haven't seen our practitioners over the last several months. You've been seeing Pat, who is my wife and the practitioner at Harmony Center, who's been filling in because we've been recording closer to home. And it's not because we don't want our practitioners to participate, but we weren't wanting people to travel to other people's houses that they didn't know. So please know that your practitioners are now, and as they have always been, available for prayer, for support, for you to reach out to. You forget the truth of yourself, you have a situation, you just want a little uplift. Those are the people that you call. They are happy to serve, and they're all very active and still holding the high watch for our community. So it's a lovely thing. And thank you, Diane. It's just lovely to have you up front as well. All right, so this month we are continuing our theme of conversations. And again, the idea this month is that we all have difficult conversations in our lives. And I think the challenge is how to bring our spiritual knowing into the conversation as part of how we meet with each other, how we talk with each other, how we work things out. So I picked hard subjects on purpose so that we could talk about how to have that conversation. Last week it was on politics, and this week we're talking about forgiveness. Everybody's second favorite topic after money, right? So we're talking about forgiveness. And I wanted to go a little deeper. Now, we talk about forgiveness in conjunction with holidays or with certain times of the year, or because it's the theme for the month. And we're always quick to say, look, forgiveness is not for the other person, it's for you, right? Forgiveness is letting go of that, of whatever the emotional charge is, so that you can move on with your life. Not condoning, not forgetting, not pretending everything's okay when it's not being friends with somebody that is toxic to you. It's not about that at all. It's about you letting go of what is hurting you. I want to take that deeper. I want to talk about how to do that. I want to talk about what that looks like in real life. So I have a story for you. After I tell you my first quote, because that's the order it is on my paper. So Brene Brown says, we talk about bringing spirituality into our everyday life. Spirituality is recognizing and celebrating that we are all inextricably connected to each other by a power greater than all of us, and that our connection to that power and to one another is grounded in love and compassion. And so tonight we're talking about the language of forgiveness. And this idea of our human desire for revenge or retaliation or reaction to someone who has wronged us, we're asking that to give way to the divine love that is within us, so that we might show up as a container where peace can happen, where healing can happen, where love can work itself through us, as us, and between each of us. So this story is about Pat. And most of you may remember she grew up on a dairy farm. And at some point in her young adult life, she had left the farm and gone to school and gone to work. And she was home helping on the farm. I think her dad was out of commission, so she was helping her brother with the chores, because they don't end ever. So she was there. And they had a situation where what happens with a cow, if they are sick, they will lie down. And cows do not recover if they're lying down. They need to stand up. So you get them to stand up, and then you treat whatever it is. You do the antibiotics, or you find the infection, or suture the wound, whatever it takes. But lying down is never good. And so you always want to get the cow up. So Pat is the oldest by 10 years. She was there helping. She could not get the cow up. Her brother, who's still living on the farm and running the farm, came in to get the cow up. And he is a big man who works on the idea that powerful means dominion or domination or forcing. And she said that he was too rough for her. She couldn't watch him. She had to step away. and then came back. And eventually the cow did get up. The cow was fine, and that was saved. But that whole incident of feeling helpless, not being able to stop her brother from going over the top, and it broke her heart. It was a trauma for her emotionally, because that girl is nothing if not an animal lover and a farm girl. And so it all turned out okay. But you know those conversations you have in your head at 2 a.m. when you can't get back to sleep? And they just go around and around and around and around and around. And it's the conversation you wish you'd said something different, or it's the event that happened that broke your heart, or that made you want to change professions. I mean, it's the things that have traumatized us that spin in our minds. And this event has haunted her for years. This is what she thinks about when she wakes up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep. And so we had this conversation about how when there's an issue like that, every time you remember it, you relive it, right? I see some people nodding, so you know what I'm talking about. It's not just that you remember that was a bad thing that happened and I'm so glad it's over. It's the whole physical, emotional response is triggered, and you're right back in it. And it never gets better. It never gets better. It never gets better. This is the situation that calls for forgiveness. So how do we do that? How do we get from feeling that overwhelming emotion that is actually in the past to a place of giving way to the divine, to a place of letting love work us, to a place of healing? Not only do we have to look at the person that we're mad at, or that we're upset with, or that we have an emotional reaction to, who, quote, did wrong, because that's usually what it feels like to us, right? We also have to find out what's going on within. Because you know, in Science of Mind, where does it always start? Right here. There's a saying that all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, and all judgment is self-judgment. So we start by working within our own hearts. Emma Goldman says, before we can forgive one another, we have to understand one another. And even if you take out the one another, before we can forgive, we have to understand. That works for us too. I can't heal my inner landscape if I don't understand why I think the way I do, how I came to that belief, why I feel so off balance in certain situations, what it is that guy did that just set me over the edge because it doesn't seem like it's very important. You know, I got to know me. I have to know and understand what's going on so I know what to do, so I know how to give myself room to get better, to think better, to feel better. So what is it exactly that needs to be understood? I need to find out what the message is underneath the response. So if I react out of anger or fear, what is it that's going on in my head that tells my human self, my ego self, to come up in arms, right? Because the ego's always looking for a fight, because the ego says, you're dangerous, I want to be safe, you're wrong, I'm right, that's just the way it is. You know people like that, right? That's the only place they ever live. They're really hard to live with, aren't they? But when I do it for myself, when I know that there's something going on in me that has me all stirred up, I want to know what the message is that I'm telling myself that's kicking that into gear. So Pat and I continued to talk through this situation. And I was asking questions of her, like, you know, in the moment when you think back, what is it you felt like? What did you think was happening? She said, I should have stayed the whole time. I should have been able to get the cow up myself. I'm the oldest one. You know, I should have been able to stop him. Why didn't I stop him? What's wrong with me that I couldn't take care of that at the time? That's the voice of judgment. That's the language of judgment that says, I'm wrong, I didn't do it right, I'm not enough. I failed. Now, at the same time all this is going on in her, the same kind of thing is happening in her brother. What was it that sent him over the top? Well, and keep in mind, this is many years ago. They were both, she was probably late 20s, he was probably early 20s, somewhere in there. I don't know, I haven't asked him, but the perception is he probably was thinking about something like, I'm in charge here. This is my barn, my cow, my way. And that power comes from physical strength. Because when you're on a farm and you work, it's physical, right? So that's what you see, that's what you think. So this idea that there's something going on in both parties, when you think about it, that's a given, right? I mean, it's not just your perspective. There's another party here. Something else is going on over there. And here's the thing. Remember, the ego, the human part of us, is always in defense mode. It's always about keeping us safe. It's always about being right, because it's safer if we're the one that's right rather than the one that's wrong. It's safer if we win rather than lose, because the ego doesn't believe that there's enough for everybody. So if I'm operating at that level, I'm going to be defensive. I'm going to lash out. I'm going to want to tell him off. I'm going to want to make him wrong out loud. I'm going to want to call my dad and tell him what he did and make him stop. There's no love there. There's fear there. There's anger, maybe. There's sadness happening. There's a sense of regret that it didn't go better. And so, if I want to get from there to the place where love can heal, then the bridge is compassion. And compassion only comes from understanding. Compassion only comes from having an idea of what's going on in the bigger picture. If you look back on it from here, when we were talking about it, she and I were talking, she was saying, we were younger. I didn't know I had any other options. I didn't know what else to do. Plus, it's family. I don't know about you, but when it comes to family dynamics, layers and layers and layers and layers, the older sister, younger brother, that's a whole book in itself, right? So many things going on that in the moment, she wouldn't have seen. She wouldn't have known. Now, it's different, but not then. So here's the suggestion, is that we have to see who we are now and connect the dots, pull the threads forward from the past event, from the present event, into an integrated tapestry. In other words, an integration for us. So what she knows now is that she is a person who sees the world in terms of protection and support. She's passionate about that. And it works for her now as an adult, as someone who's matured and who has grown, because she is authentically a caring person who has ways in which she can support others. She does it in her work, she does it in her family. It's how she's wired. And that traumatic event was actually an illustration of that same characteristic that she now knows how to use. And she said what it made her think of was a couple months ago, she was outside a church, and there was a guy in a car, and he had a dog with him, and he was not being nice to the dog. So immediately, she's up, and she watched. She wanted to see. She wanted to give it a little time. And in her mind, while she was watching, she was going through the alternatives, the options that she had. She could say something. She could stay in her car. She could get out. She could call the police. But she wasn't going to leave. She wasn't going to step away. And that is what healing looks like. When confronted with the same emotional triggers, our responses are different. Our sense of power and confidence is different. We have grown, we have healed, we have become more of who we truly are. So the situation calmed down on its own. She didn't have to do anything. It turns out there was another person in the car. Everybody calmed down. Dog was fine. People were fine. Everybody was fine. But it was keeping her awake at night, this memory. And so, talking through what had happened and who she is now is the bridge that we call forgiveness. It says there is a bigger picture of life unfolding, my life, my brother's life, the life of the farm. And in that bigger picture, I am, whatever it is for each of us, I'm stronger, I'm more determined, I'm very clear on what my priorities are, I have a voice, I'm willing to speak up. That is what forgiveness looks like. It's this stepping into a place of understanding and compassion and love that realizes that the voice of judgment that said you didn't do it right, you were wrong, what's wrong with you, was false. It was based on a wrong conclusion at the time. It was based on incomplete information, simply a lack of awareness. So we have to take time to pull in who we are now and see how it relates to those incidents in the past that cause us grief still. See how those events of the past actually help shape us into who we are today, and allow those two things to reside at the same time. And the only container big enough for that is your spiritual self that knows love, that knows the divine love, that knows the atmosphere of healing. Because if we leave it up to our little human selves, all we'll do is kick and scream and fight with each other. Right? Yeah. This compassion with passion, is to understand that the heart is really the power at the center of our being, not our minds. We do need to think differently, but we cannot think differently if we don't feel differently. Now, you can change your feelings and that'll change your thinking, or you can change your thinking and that will change your feeling. But you got to change something, right? We got to shift. And it doesn't take a big shift, it takes an awareness. So we had this 20-minute conversation this morning about this particular incident. And the words from her afterwards were, I am lighter. This doesn't feel as heavy. I've never made those connections before. I never thought about what my brother was going through. So there's an awareness that wasn't there before that is going to work her, right? Those kinds of ideas just bubble around in our minds and in our hearts, and we realize soon enough that we've shifted. Our central quote today from Ernest Holmes, founder of Science of Mind. He says, nothing is more important than we learn how to forgive both ourselves and others. He said that in Living the Science of Mind. Nothing is more important. Why? Because that forgiveness is love in action. And if we are not about love, we're not living our best life. Forgiveness is love in action. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you're supposed to stick around with people who are toxic to you, or that you should stay in a situation while you figure it out that puts you in danger. But I am talking about understanding that life is unfolding And from the divine perspective, there is a pattern, there is a way forward, there is an infinite possibility on how things can work out, and they will work out because what we know is that life is for us. In the Old Testament, the story of Joseph, his brothers left him in the desert for dead, and he lived and went on to become, a big mucky muck in Egypt and saved his family during the famine many years later. And his brothers were like, when they realized who it was, they were so paranoid that he was going to be so angry with them. He said, look, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. Life is for us. So whatever it looks like in the moment, it's still for us. Lewis Smead says, forgiving does not erase the bitter past. A healed memory is not a deleted memory. Instead, forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember. We change the memory of our past. It shows up today as power, and it shows up in the future as our hope. In other words, our expectation. So it's not about deleting all the bad things that happened to us or all the conversations we wish we had. It's not about changing what happened in the past because we can't really do that. What we are changing is the way in which we remember. What we are changing is what meaning it has for us. So originally, in the argument and the difficulty with the cow, the message that she took away from it was that she was helpless, she didn't do it right, he didn't do it right either, and it's just a good thing the cow lived. That's the meaning. That meaning that she carried in her was that she did it wrong, she should have done more, why didn't she do more, what's wrong with me? Okay, so let's change the meaning of that story. Let's look at the event and say, you know what? Even then you were passionate about caring for animals that don't have their own voice. Even then you were passionate and sad that you had left the farm even though you knew it was the right thing for you to do. Even then you knew there had to be a better way. And look, that's how you're living your life now. So the meaning is, I have stepped into myself in a greater way. And isn't that what we're all about? Is becoming and growing and thriving and evolving. That's what it means. Not that you didn't do enough when you didn't know any better. So when you have someone that you just can't see yourself forgiving, whether it's in the moment or in the past, here's a technique to try. Remind yourself of one thing that that person has done that shows you that they have a heart. Okay? Think about that for a minute. Remind yourself of one thing that person has done that shows you they have a heart. So for example, her brother has kids now. He's different. He's very different. He's still a big and intimidating guy, but not around his little daughter. Not at all. So the idea that we all change, we can all change, we do all change and evolve, even people who didn't seem like they were ever going to get a clue, right? They do. We do. Or if you really can't think of something, we all have people where we just don't see the good in them. We've cut them out of our lives, or the family shunned them, or they're on the other side of the political aisle, and we just wonder how they could even, here we are on the same planet. I didn't give you permission to be in my life. What are you doing in my life? Can't think of anything good. Then do this. Remind yourself of one thing that happened in their history that would cause them to move around in the world so frightened that they only deal in anger or lash out or whatever the bad behavior is. So either find the love that you have seen from them, or remind yourself of the history of how it came to be, that they had to be so combative or difficult or annoying, whatever it is. You have to pause and forgive someone's humanness. Because here's the thing. I'm going to offend somebody. I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to be having a really bad day. And you know what? When my ego is having a really bad day, I am no fun to be around. I try to just keep quiet on those days, but I don't always succeed. And when that happens, I'm going to ask for your forgiveness. I'm going to want to make it right. And the only way I'm going to believe that you might even say yes to that is if I am in the habit of offering forgiveness to people who do that to me. A spiritual practice means that you practice being how you want to be treated, that you practice being how you want to feel with other people. That's what we do. That's why we talk about love and beauty and peace. It's not just to sit around and sing Kumbaya. It's so that we actually bring that light into the world. That's who we're meant to be. The other thing about forgiveness is that it comes in its own time. It comes in its own time. You're not always ready to offer it or to ask for it. That's part of that container has to be big enough for us to be human in. That's where the love comes in. That's all right. You don't have to be ready. You can start off just by being aware. Okay, this happened. I realize it's changing the way I deal with people today. I don't want it to affect my life, but there it is. And I'm not ready to forgive that person, or I'm not ready to forgive myself. Okay, be willing. Tell yourself you're willing. I'm willing to forgive when the time is right. I'm willing to be in a place of love rather than fear, rather than anger, rather than picking a fight. I'm willing to get there. I don't know how it's going to happen because I'm not feeling it right now, but I'm willing. That's called surrendering. And we think surrendering is giving up, but really it's give back up. Give back what's not yours. What you are hanging on to from the past that creates the grudge or the resentment or the discomfort or the self-doubt or the negative talk, what you are hanging on to there, it's not your authentic self. It's not your spiritual knowing. It's learned. It's a false conclusion. It's based on not all the information. That whole judgment thing in your head is that loop of, I don't really have enough information, but I think you're wrong, or I think I'm wrong. All right? So when we are willing, when we surrender, when we give back up, give it up to spirit, for example, when we give back up, we're letting go of what's causing the hurt so that then we can make decisions based from a place of peace rather than fear, rather than struggle, rather than fighting. So we give way, we forgive, we give away what's hurting us. We don't give away the memory. We don't give away the lesson. We give away the pain that was caused because I didn't know what to do with it at the time. And now I do. Something in me knows. I give way to the divine in me so that I might live a future without schlepping all that behind me. All right. And the way we do it, say you're not ready, you know you're willing. The way we do it is when that voice of judgment shows up again, and it does. In the 70s, we called that the critical parent, right? It was in your head telling you all the things you did wrong. You match the language of judgment with the language of forgiveness. So you give yourself room. I forgive myself for being human. I affirm that I will make amends. I only want what's best for all of us. I know there's a way forward where everybody wins. I don't want to make you wrong in order for me to feel right. I am willing to see what happens. I am willing to trust that the divine life unfolds in its perfection, whether I see it or not. That's who I am. That's who I want to be. And when we do that, we change the world. Marianne Williamson says the practice of forgiveness is our most important contribution to the healing of the world. And I'd say the world needs a little healing, wouldn't you? And all the divisiveness that we're seeing, all of the fear around the illness, all of the calls for justice for people who have been neglected for so long, all of those things are affected by our ability to be in love rather than looking for revenge, looking to be right. I don't need to be right. I can tell you what I stand for and what I believe in and how I choose to live my life without telling you you have to do the same thing, or without making you wrong for what you want to do. When I stand in my heart, in the peace and the love that is there for those I love the most, when I know that love and peace for myself, then I got a lot more room for whatever crazy stuff you guys start doing. Right? And that's a good thing. Because who knows, I might learn something. I might change my mind. I might broaden my opinion or my perspective. So might you if I'm not fighting with you. We might actually be able to hear each other better. And we might agree to disagree and have that be okay and not feel threatened. It's not the human side of us that does that. It's the divine. It's the spiritual. It's the dance that we do when we remember the greater truth. We're so much better with each other when we come from love. So we're called to remember. We're called to remember the truth, the greater truth of who we are, the greater consciousness that we are a part of. And we're called to remember that what we want is the same thing. You know, I want happiness. I want to avoid suffering. I've been sad. I've been lonely. I want to be loved. And I need to know that just like me, you are seeking happiness in your life. And just like me, you want to be loved. And just like me, you're trying to avoid suffering. And just like me, you've known sadness. And just like me, you are a spirit on a journey. And in that remembering, we speak the language of forgiveness, because that language starts with self-love, with honoring the heart. And when I do that for me, I can do it for you. And when I can do it for you, we can all thrive. We can all see each other in the light of compassion and really know the power of kindness. That is love in action. And that is the truth of who we are. Namaste. All right, if you will, join me in a moment of prayer. It's taking that deep breath and feeling our feet on the ground. Drawing in the energy of life in all its many forms around us. Each other, the breeze, the plants, the light. Knowing that right where we are, the presence of the One is the only presence in this space. There is a love that animates all things. That love is another name for life, for God, for spirit, for energy, for the universal mind. Love is that self-givingness, that nurturing, that evolution that is always unfolding. That is the nature of love that is me, is you, is the energy of all. And it is from this place of energy that I call forth the love that is in my heart, that I might spread it out into the world. And what I know for myself, I know for everyone, that the love that is the very energy of life lives in every heart. And as I sit in that space of love, all that is unlike love may fall away. All that is unlike peace simply fades into the darkness from which it came. All the light that there is in my being radiates outward, and I see the light from everyone I meet. For I choose to speak the language of forgiveness, to take the action of love and expression, to make room for humanity's foibles, knowing that we outgrow them when we continue to grow, that we blossom into something greater when we remove the obstacles of fear and doubt and worthiness, and simply know that peace is, God is, love is, I am, we are, and all is well. For each and every gift of life that I meet, I am grateful. For each and every expression of love that I meet, I am grateful. For each and every event which seems to traumatize, I am grateful. For I know that life is for me, that life is for each of us, that we are called into something greater through our experience on this human plane, so that we ourselves might know the magnificence of spirit that we truly are. It is for our own discovery that we do this work, and that we allow our hearts to open, our actions to be kind, and our words to bring peace. I simply release this word into law, for I know that in the mind of God it is perfectly unfolding in time and space, right where I am and right where I am not. It is all good, for I know it is all God, and so it is. I don't know what we're talking about next week. Something really, really good. All right, my friends, an affirmation, if you will. Repeat after me. Love is. I am. We are. Love is. And so it is. Try that next time you're in traffic. All right. So this month, the last few Fridays, 9 o'clock, here in the garden, coffee and donuts. If you haven't come yet, it's really fun. You should come. We have a really good time. Bring your chair, wear your mask. I'll bring the I'll bring the donuts. You bring the coffee. And we have a nice little hour chit chat. It's just really fun. So if you'd like to join us, we would welcome you. Wednesday night, we have meditation with Nisa via phone. The link is in the e-blast. If you're getting our email, you know how to dial in. And our Wednesday night service is via Zoom, which is not as hard as it sounds. If you haven't done it yet and you want to, please let me know or call the office and we'll get you together with somebody who can walk you through it. Right, Mickey? We can get you on Zoom, right? Yes, Mickey knows. Mickey knows. Hey, it wasn't all her fault, okay? Some of it was that darn internet, you know? So, yeah, we'll get you going. So do join us on Zoom on Wednesdays. I have a couple volunteer opportunities. If you have any plant, nature, green thumb tendencies, our garden would love your attention. We have a lot of potted plants, as you see. They need to be trimmed, they need to be watered, some of them need new pots. They need a little time and love and attention. So if that sounds like something that makes your heart go pitter-pat, please let me know, and we'll figure out how we might proceed. I would love to have a little help out here. We had a wedding here on Saturday, a little 20-person, I think the bridal party was bigger than the crowd, but that's because of COVID. So, but they had a beautiful little, they decorated, we got everything all cleaned up for them, and we could use a little more love here to help make it beautiful for the next event we have, because I'm sure there will be more. All right, the second volunteer opportunity is during the voting weekend. Our center will once again be a voting center. We'll be open from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, leading up to November 3rd. And what we need are people to stop by on some kind of a schedule to wipe down, sanitize, spray and wipe all the surfaces that are not the actual voting machines. So the polling workers will take care of the polls, but we need to take care of the doorknobs and the bathrooms and it's really just spray and wipe. It's just about keeping things sanitized because people will be using the facility, and that's our contribution to this community event that we are hosting, right? So if you've got a little time on that weekend, maybe you come all 4 days at 10 o'clock, and I figure half an hour, you're done. Or if you want to come back 3 times in one day, I'm open. We've never done that before, so however you think it might work for you, I will sign you up. So do let me know if you are available to help with keeping things refreshed during the voting process. Okay? It also means you can drop your ballot off here too, right? There will be a drop box here, or you can actually use it to vote. So you are all voting, right? Okay. Yes, because we know how important it is for our own heart and soul to speak up, to stand for what we stand for. That's what we're doing. All right. One other thing, and that is I had referred last week when we were talking about politics to the Home Office voting guide that they put out. It's not about who to vote for. It's a little booklet that talks about, here are the values that we teach. Here are the questions you might ask yourself as you're deciding which candidate, which proposition to support. Here are the ways in which you can put your spiritual philosophy into practice. So if you'd like, there's a few copies on the table out front, which is also where our offering basket is, if you would like to contribute tonight while you're here. If you will, say our offering affirmation with me. Most of you know it. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am prosperous now, and I know that you are, for I see that you are blessed. And please know, until next time, you are loved. Namaste.